I'm a journalist. I'm from Oakland. I went to Howard and UC Berkeley. I now work at KQED, where I write a column and I host a podcast. I'd love to know a little bit about yourselves before I just jump into my background. So maybe we can start with name, age, where you're from, and what you want to do. So we can go clockwise.
I'll start. My name is Lex.
One more time?
My name's Lex. I go to a school called East Bay Innovation Academy right now. I'm entering my senior year. In the future, I want to try to pursue an education in history and physics, and I guess I'm trying to go to UCB.
Thanks, Lex.
My name is Shamar. I go to the same school as Lex, and I'm also entering my senior year. In the future, I might want to try to do something math or science related.
Thank you, Shamar.
I'm Niko. I'm going into 10th grade at Oakland High. I don't know what I want to do.
Pleasure to meet you, Niko.
My name's Eli. I go to Carolinda High School, which is in Marin. I'm going to be a senior, and I think that I maybe want to go into education when I'm an adult, but I'm not totally sure.
Eli, pleasure to meet you. Thank you.
My name's Rebecca. I'm a senior, and I want to maybe do psychology and stuff, therapist work. That's it.
Thank you. Pleasure to meet you, Rebecca.
Nice to meet you.
All right, so we're not there. I don't know what I wanted to do. So you're all good. I will say that going into education is really therapeutic. After 12 plus years of school, of getting up every day, going to school, it really helped me a lot to understand the other side of the game. So even if that's not your chosen field, any form of just experiencing being a teacher, I would highly recommend. And also hats off to the teachers as well. Today we're talking about oral history, right? And the benefits, detriments, ups and downs, ins and outs of it. A little bit of background about myself. Let's see, where do I even start? I got into writing through poetry, through the Oratorical Fest, which is a different form of oral history. It's poetry, but it's how I got to know writing, specifically writing of the Black experience and the importance thereof. And I was in kindergarten or first grade the first time I appeared in a newspaper. So that was my introduction to local media, right? Poetry ended up turning into rapping when I wanted to be cool in middle school. And then in high school, I realized I could do so much more with it through a program called Youth Radio. It's now called YR Media in downtown Oakland. That's how I learned about journalism and telling stories that didn't have to rhyme. And it took me all around the world. Through journalism, I've been to Ghana, Senegal, China, and Ireland, as well as about 30 states. And a lot of my work has been about the Black experience, has been about arts and culture, has been about politics, the justice system. But the one piece that I've done in my career that really gets me a lot of jobs, a lot of people know me for, is this project called OG Told Me. OG Told Me is something that, it started off as I was in 11th grade bio class, in the back of class, and I'm sketching in my notebook, and I wanted to start a religion. And then I realized religions are hard to start. So I scaled it down. And the idea for the religion was that the one thing I believe in is that everybody out here is getting old. We're all getting old. I can attest to that. You can attest to that. And then I realized, let's scale it down. Let's tell this story in a different form. So it was a comic book. It was a rap album. It was just different mediums, different mediums of ways of telling the same story of hey, we're all getting old. What's the wisdom that you gain as you grow old? And then I was teaching. I ended up being a teacher at Oakland Tech during the African American Male Achievements pilot class, where I'm teaching 20 young Black men about life. And it's not your traditional class. In the middle of a disruption, if people are talking, we stop everything, we do push-ups. If we're having a day where no one is focused, we just play catch. We meditate, things like that. And I realized a lot of people are on their phone. And this was at a time where y'all might not remember this, but Tumblr was hot. And everybody was just looking at Tumblr all the time. And so I decided to create a Tumblr called OG Told Me. And the goal was to bridge generations. I realized there's a generational divide in Oakland. A lot of younger Black men don't really, this is a large it's not always the case. There are some younger Black men who don't respect the opinions of older Black men. There's some older Black men who don't trust or feel safe around younger Black men. And there was a disconnect, and some of them hadn't grown up around each other, or rather, younger men hadn't grown up with the older men in the household. And so knowing this intergenerational divide, I said, well, I can use this digital platform to kind of bridge the stories. And so I started going out in my community, taking photos of elder Black men, asking them for words of wisdom. If you had the chance to talk to some young people and give them some advice based on your life's experiences, what would you tell them? And it wasn't always just that clinical. I wouldn't just go up to somebody on the bus and say, hey, mister, I'm doing a report. But I'd go up to them and say, hey, man, I like your hat. Where'd you get that from? Oh, for real? Okay, that's a nice outfit. Are you from Alabama? What brings you to Oakland? Oh, you came up here looking for your father? Oh, that's interesting, man. I do this project where I'm interviewing people. Matter of fact, can I interview you? And from there, we'd have a conversation. And the conversation would boil down to that question that I just posed to you. And I did it for 5 years. It was therapeutic. It was revealing. It was a lot of hard work. I did it for free. Again, this was a Tumblr. And in the end, people asked me why I did this project. And I had to explain to them that this is kind of how I grew up. I grew up with older Black men everywhere, just like in the barber shop, the bus driver, the corner store, the owner of the 67 Cougar that I admire, or the dude at the basketball court. Like, these are just dudes in the neighborhood who have lived experience and wisdom based on their experiences, and no one's documenting it. And so I wanted to document it myself. And subliminally, I think it was a part of me growing up without a father in the household, of wanting to document male wisdom, Black male wisdom, if you will. And so I wrote a book about my coming of age experience, 12 different essays about growing up in Oakland and like going out with my friends, chasing some girls, doing some dumb stuff, bumping our heads, and some older Black men being like, stop bumping your head. That's the short of it. But that was kind of the prequel to this photo essay that I had been doing for 5 years. When the book came out, it completed the package. Then I could turn to different publications like The Fader or NPR or Los Angeles Times and say, hey, here's this book that I've published, all independent. Here's this photo essay that I've done, all independent. And now, because I have this experience in teaching, I can go to organizations or schools or art galleries and speak. And so I created a business, more or less, or at least a little entrepreneurial endeavor. And it's a teaching tool, and it's something that I use it as like a business card. My resume is one thing, but in this line of work, in journalism, people look at, like, they Google you, they see what you have online and like what content is out there. And so many times people reference that project that I did for free before they reference the paid work that I've done for so many different publications. And I didn't know it at the time, but I wasn't just documenting their history, I was also documenting the landscape. The landscape of Oakland has changed so much in the past 12 years that these photos I'm taking of people in West Oakland, the buildings look different, And I'm like, whoa, this is more than just an oral history documented. This is actually like a lived history documented. This is the cityscape documented. This is just so many different layers to this project. So that was the OG Told Me project. I've done different renditions of oral history projects thereafter, but that's the one that, like, if I told you about anything, that's the thing that got me in the door. And that's the one I would love to see elements of it done by younger folks. It doesn't have to be the same topic. It doesn't have to be the same approach. Mine was photography and written. There was some video and audio, but there's a lot of room to do a lot more. And so I wanted to hear what y'all are working on, what y'all are thinking about, what type of oral histories you would like to document and why. And we can just go around the room and kind of have a conversation about it. Just, is there anything kind of already on the table that I should know about?
Well, these folks are working on oral histories right now with some folks that they've learned a little bit about, but no too much information about, and they're really trying to collect some histories about living in and spending over the span of some elders' lifetimes living in the Bay Area. So some Oakland residents, some Berkeley residents, but mostly some older folks who have a little bit of a different perspective, and hopefully they can share them with the students, and they'll collect that information and potentially share that with other students and also teachers. So they're kind of doing teacher work too by helping us to train other teachers and students how to do oral histories by setting the example for everyone, really.
Gotcha. Okay, quick exercise. Let's do this. It's 5 of you. We can run through this real quick. I need everybody to ask me one question. I just gave you a whole bunch of information about myself, my background, a whole bunch of things you can pull from. I need one question from everybody. Yes, Lex.
I got 3 actually.
I just one for now.
Because you seem to have a really long history with just like interviewing people and being a journalist. What do you think is a way to ask like a good, unique question?
What your gut says in your heart of heart. Like, this is the one thing I want to ask this person. If I ask nothing else, this is the one thing that's at the top of mind.
Okay.
Yeah, so go with your gut. Thanks, Lex. I'll just keep going clockwise. Jared, right? Jamar, I'm sorry. Jamar.
Oh, he's getting my name wrong. I'm sorry.
Jamar, I would not forget.
Okay, yeah, you have a lot of experience interviewing people, so I feel like my question might end up being, what do you think would be a good way to start interviewing?
What's a good way to start interviewing? Like the introduction? Is that your question?
Why can I not explain everything? Okay. My question is, how are you able to make good follow-up questions?
Good follow-up question. That's good. So after the question that Lex asked about like what's in your gut, follow-up questions, it's a matter of listening. Like, I have questions laid out. I've laid out some questions beforehand. If I know I'm going to interview you, I'm going to say, I have this like script, but I'm not going to stick to it. This is more of a tool belt. And at any point I can pull from that tool belt, or if I'm listening with a critical ear, then I'll put this on the back burner and I'll ask a follow-up question that also comes from my gut. Just a genuine conversation piece. And so it's really a matter of listening, as opposed to thinking about your next question in this like parking lot that I have already laid out, you know? Is that cool? Jamar, right? Thank you. Next, remind me your name one more time. Niko, Eli, Rebecca. Gotcha. Niko, yes. One question, it can be anything. Don't think too deep. Just ask one question for the purpose of the exercise.
What was like the most recent like interview or something? Like,
Good question. Most recent interview that I've done? What did I do yesterday? It's all a blur. Yesterday's interview actually fell through. It was with a photographer, and it happened to be her birthday. And she forgot it was her birthday, so she had to cancel. Prior to that, I interviewed a rap artist by the name of Coco P, who's from Berkeley, and she's putting out a song about reproductive rights. It's a hip-hop song about reproductive rights. And given today's ruling, that's why I interviewed her. And also because I can't think of too many hip-hop songs about reproductive rights. And so you can see why I would want to interview her right now, right? But yeah, that's the most recent interview. Good question. Eli.
What has been your favorite interview?
Favorite interview? One?
But just, I don't know, it doesn't have to be one. It's just like,
No, it has to.
It has to be one, right? I'm asking you to ask one question.
One question.
One question, one answer, right?
Yeah.
One favorite interview ever. Right now in this moment, my favorite interview on my mind in this moment is an interview I did at the Golden State Warriors Arena where I was interviewing Cheryl Miller. It comes to mind because the 50th anniversary of Title IX was just this week. And I saw clips of Cheryl Miller playing, and I was like, hey, I interviewed her. And I made an ass of myself. The first thing I did was comment on her height. And I'm really short, and I'm like, it didn't need to be said. And it's one of my favorite interviews because I'm so short, I still managed to put my foot in my mouth. It was just, yeah. So it was a learning experience. That's why it's one of my favorites right now in this movement. But thank you for that, Eli. Rebecca.
I would say, what advice would you give to somebody who's like getting into interviews but like has like social like awkwardness? I guess.
Man,
Yeah.
let's talk about it, right? Rebecca, I do this thing where I change my voice. And that's because it's a defense mechanism. It's like, it's no longer me talking. This is me in character. And it's a lot easier. It's so easy. It's so much easier. And I've realized it's probably something I started doing in elementary school when I was having tough conversations with friends. When I was like, I needed to say some real stuff to one of my homeboys, but I didn't want to be the one, like the Boy Scout of the group. And so I would say it in like Cartman's voice from South Park or something like that. Kind of jokingly, but seriously at the same time, right? And so it has grown to be a defense mechanism where I'll kind of put on a professional voice, or maybe I'm just jokingly, depending on who the person is, and kind of reflect their personality. But yeah, I think changing my voice, at least at the start, helps me ease into the conversation, and compliments help as well. This exercise, Niko, I saw his brain start to go, one question, so much information. What do I ask? I was like, don't think too hard about it. One question. Like I told Lex, what's in your gut? First thing that comes to mind, what do I want to get from this conversation? That one question. If you can keep that as your central focus, that really helps. At times when I'm nervous, supremely nervous, I'll put that one question at the top just to get it out the way. Other times when I'm more comfortable, I'll kind of go fishing. Hey, how was your day? Hey, tell me about Berkeley. What's your experience out here? No idea that I'm here to talk to you about your shoes and why you chose those shoes. You know, just to like boil all the way down there. So it's a matter of like how comfortable I am and the interaction. But at the heart of that OG Told Me project was that one question. And that really helped when I was talking to an elder, because they have so many experiences and so much to say. So if I say, I'm just here for this, it really helps the editing process a lot. But don't be afraid to start off with a compliment or a joke or something of that nature, just to kind of break the ice. Other tools, tricks of trade. I heard that there was some discussion around choosing what medium you want to tell your stories in. Are we clear on, anybody have any questions about how to choose what medium? Do we know what medium means? No, yeah, no, all right, so medium. Yes, Eli, tell me what medium means.
Just kind of the format, I guess you could say, in the way that you deliver it, like, you know, could it be audio or written or a video or something like that?
Yep, what platform, what format, which way you want to do it. Do you want to do it, make it a cartoon? I did this one great oral history project with security guards in Oakland. At the heart of it was, hey, no one wants to be a cop, but so many of my African-American friends are security guards. Why? And so they didn't want their photos taken. And I was like, well, we have to see how you look for this to be understood. I can't just write African-American man, 17 years old. Like, no, so I worked with an illustrator. So while I'm having this conversation recorded, I used audio to record it, and it was written, I transcribed it. I had a cartoonist sitting over in the cut drawing this individual I was talking to. So the illustration looks like this person, but not definitely. They're not going to lose their job because of their pictures in this magazine now. But we chose that because of, I guess, the barriers to entry, if you will. So you're thinking about what format, what platform you want to do. Is definitely about what resources you have, how you want the audience to take it in, and and the subject, how they're comfortable. Does anybody have any ideas of what they want to do right now?
I do.
Yeah.
I know for sure that I'm gonna be editing the audio because I know my way around like audio equipment and stuff like that. I'm thinking about recording a video too. I'm not too sure about photography, but I know how to edit videos and stuff. So I might make it a video, but definitely audio.
Definitely audio, maybe video. Not sure about photography. Okay, gotcha. Anybody else? And then I'll come back to that. Anybody else know what they want to do? No questions. Still trying to figure it out.
Maybe.
Yeah. What's the maybe?
I don't know. I haven't talked to him yet, but I have most experience with just writing because that's what I do for my school, part of the school newspaper, right? I keep calling it newspaper. It's a website, but yeah. So that's just what I'm most experienced with. So
It's okay to call it a newspaper. Like,
Yeah.
there's magazines that don't print anymore. Podcasts aren't on iPods, so it's okay. The video conversation, right? Interesting thing about that is, if you do video, you can pull from it still photos. If you do video with quality audio, you can pull from it just the audio. If you do just audio, you can't pull video from that. So you do yourself a favor by producing stuff in the highest quality video and the highest quality audio. And then you can work backwards. If you just want a still photo and you want to transcribe, you want to write what was said in the video, you can do that. Even if you just want to do the transcription, just the written part, at least have the video. I keep doing this because there's like a hierarchy, right? So I studied documentary film at Berkeley, right? I got into the game doing audio work, like radio work. And so it took me learning each step along the way to really master it. It blew my mind when I learned that like video is nothing but a whole bunch of still photos back to back to back to back to back, right? And once I got that, I was like, oh, so I really need to master still photos so that I can know how to do video even better. It just makes sense that way. And once I have, I wouldn't say a mastery, or a certain sense of mastery of each, then I go with video as my highest form of capturing the story, and I can work backwards from there. When do we have to have the decision made by?
Definitely for these kids, Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
in a couple hours.
It's such a fast process. It's insane. And the post-production, we know they're going to need so much more time with the video and the audio and figure out how they're going to showcase it on next Friday. So next Friday is the showcase of their interviews.
Sorry, Tuesday, then Friday, Tuesday, Friday, and the Friday after that.
The reason why it's so small because half of the kids are interviewing
doing the work. Yeah.
And then these students are going to do it Monday.
Doing the interviews Monday.
So everybody will interview Friday, today, or Monday, and then by Tuesday it's kind of like,
start producing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh man, as best as you can by Monday, know how you're going to produce, what platform. It just helps you so much when you're going into the interview. Like, if I know that I'm doing audio only, then I can just leave the video camera at home, be very, very mindful of how I mic the person, and I can ask questions that lead the person to really verbally illustrate something. Because when there's video, you have the opportunity to put visuals in there. But if it's solely audio, you need to say, hey, what color jeans did you have on? Like, tell me more about this. Go in deeper detail. Paint that picture for me. If I couldn't see this, how would you explain this to somebody who couldn't see? So, yeah, I would say before you even go into the interview, at least have some sense of what medium you're going to use. That's a quick turnaround too. Yes, and hi.
Hi, Ben. My name's Casey.
Hi, Casey.
I didn't introduce myself before. I was bringing students to their interview rooms, but it's so awesome to have you here. Thank you. My mind's racing with questions too. I'm wondering, so like, if you do video, do you think it's also helpful to just take some photos in addition of your person? Or would you just like pull still frames from the video?
Yeah, so I would do, if I'm doing a sit-down conversation video, I would want alternative photos as well. Otherwise, all of the photos that you pull from that sit-down are going to look the same. It's just the head is going to move, right? But if I'm walking with somebody and I'm doing video, or I have a couple of different locations, then I feel comfortable pulling from the video. But yeah, the more the merrier, especially when it comes to photos. And if we're working in digital photos, then you have that bandwidth. Yeah. Keep in mind you do have to edit it, and there's a quick turnaround. But yeah, I would definitely say either or. If you're sitting down, then you want multiple photos. If you're on the move, then you have at least a couple of different places where you can pull images from. And is it going to be recorded cell phone, or is it going to be recorded like video camera? iPad. iPad is quality. iPad can be quality. So as long as you're in a good range, you're not too far away from people.
Some students have to do it through Zoom.
I was going to say that next.
And so that's a different element, but we're also, on our end, we're running into technology obstacles. Like we have microphones, but we don't have the right connector. So there are these things, right, where we know that we had to prepare beforehand, but it seems like there's some hurdles that we're having to jump over.
Yeah, I think if you are doing Zoom and you're doing oral history of an elder, you have the opportunity to ask them for old photos. Like that, if somebody's interviewing me about being a kid growing up in Oakland, like I'll show you my soccer photo from like when I was 7. And that's something you can incorporate into, especially if you have just the Zoom. You take that Zoom file, or you're editing it, I'm imagining, the Zoom video, and so you could splice in a couple of photos and have the audio of the person still talking as the photos lay over this conversation. It helps the viewer understand, like, oh, this is what it was like to be a kid playing soccer in East Oakland.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have a question. So, the students are generating oral histories, really about like place and and relating to like being from the Bay Area, so to with the elders, right? So, some of the focus that or some of the things they're grappling with right now is like trying to ask questions that will sort of inspire the elders to sort of tell their stories of being from the place where they're from and just telling their stories. So, could you share a little bit about like your connection to place? Because that's actually how I know you from an article that you wrote about being from Oakland, and that sort of inspired me to do and to learn more about things. And so like I'm hoping that for them they'll have that same experience. Like, oh, okay, based on the conversation, like I want to learn, or I want the things that the elders are telling me to sort of be something that would inspire others to have a deeper connection. How do you sort of advise them to sort of pull those stories out and sort of get that conversation going to sort of generate that enthusiasm for in the interviewee and for themselves?
You'd appreciate this. Knowing history, and like my expertise is pop culture, Black culture, musical history, right? And so you made me think about like an interview I did with Dorothy Lazard, who's a retired historian from Oakland Library, and she's just a gem. She not only is a historian by study, she's also a historian by like lived experience. And so asking her about like, she tells me that she was a student in Oakland high schools in the early 1970s. My mind, a baseball fan, is like, hey, so you were around when the A's won the World Series? Boom, she opens up. I cut school to go downtown for the parade. I left Castlemont, went all the way downtown. I caught this bus, I wore these clothes. Like the details spilled out, but knowing that little tidbit of history pulled on a string that really spoke to her heart. So I would say, be aware of like major historical events. There's a word for this. It's a study that's not sociology and not anthropology. It's like autobiographical anthropology is a term that I've heard.
Autoethnography?
Yeah.
Autoethnography, yeah, exactly. And so I just read about that like last week. I was like, that's what I love. That's what I love, where people can talk about who they were at that time and space, and then give the larger context of what was going on in the world, right? That's by definition. That's pretty much it. Yeah. So yeah, things that like that really help. And then dialing that down to the locality of like this major historical event happened, but it happened specifically here, and you were there for that. That really helps. Me and my personal storytelling about it. Yeah, I try to see where I was in that place and time. So if I'm like telling my own story, I'll speak about Occupy Oakland and what it looked like in the larger scope of things happening across the nation. But also, I lived on 13th and Webster, and I taught at McClymonds in West Oakland, so I had to bike from one side of the encampment to the other. And when stuff went down, I couldn't get there. So yeah, major events and where that person falls in with that major event. Does that answer it? Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so you gotta do a little bit of homework. It definitely pays. Definitely pays to do some homework. Or just talk to somebody in an area that you already have interest and expertise in. Like have been students for some time now. So other things, other concerns, other issues. Thoughts, fears. Lex, I know you had two other questions. Can we come back to those?
Yeah. It's really just one question because you answered the other one while you were speaking about yourself. But I guess do you have any like real big tips for writing more effectively?
Writing more effectively? I got notebooks, something to write down. So Lex has a notebook. Write this down. Most important thing I'm gonna tell you today.
On the stickies.
Right on the stickies. I'll tell you two things. This is one to answer your question, and another thing that I just tell all journalism students that I ever talk to. So the first thing, I'll let you, Jamar, go ahead. Don't want you to miss this. I'll stall. I'll talk about, I have a cat named Sky. She's really annoying. All right, cool. You ready? Yeah. All right, let's do it. Ready? Niko? Take your time, period. Do it, period. Right, with the W. take your time, period, do it, period, right, with the W. When I say this, my mom used to always say, take your time, do it right. She's like, you know, do the right thing, take your time, don't mess up, right? But me, being an artist, I was like, take your time, like this is my time. Ha 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 ha, I'm gonna take it. I'm going to commandeer this time. I'm not letting anybody tell me what to do with this time. Do it. Go out and experience, live, really understand what this story is about. Immerse yourself in it. Go and have an action item tied to it, and then write about it. So it's a matter of like, you said my favorite interview at the moment, Cheryl Swoops came to mind. Cheryl Miller. My favorite story I ever wrote was about biking around East Oakland with Marshawn Lynch and like 1,000 other kids. And it was so tight to me because Sunday afternoon, I'm biking with my daughter in downtown Oakland. I see a whole bunch of kids hitting wheelies in front of Marshawn Lynch's store. What y'all doing? Bike ride, let's go. All right, daughter's in the back seat. We take off. We go all the way to seminary and then back down and around the lake. And at some point, there's some motorcycles out there and people are smoking and drinking and, you know, just kids taking over this neighborhood where a lot of black and brown kids have been pushed out of. And I'm like, this is fun, but it's also kind of a protest. It's like a political statement to like occupy the streets. This is great. I see the story here. Let me go home and write this. I wrote that article in like 90 minutes. It was because I took my time, I went out and I lived something, and then I wrote about it. And I felt it, I felt the adrenaline. Usually articles take me anywhere from 3 hours to 3 days. That was the fastest turnaround I've ever had for a piece. And so that lived experience is something I held near and dear. Writer's block is something that gets me all the time. And I realized I just need to go for a walk, go exercise, go talk to somebody, go have a human interaction. I write in a closet. Like there's a desk in there. But
who needs social interaction?
Right, yeah, exactly, mad scientist. No, you gotta get out and at least see something that inspires you and let you know why you're doing it. There's a reason that high schools have pep rallies, to really get your spirits up and going. And so I think about that often, like that is why I struggle sometimes with writing. I live in Sacramento now, and so I'm not around my Oakland circles that were kind of like, yeah, Penn, keep writing. Now I'm just in Sacramento with this crazy cat. But yes, so that's the first thing I'll tell you. Second thing, since I have your ears, this is something that you didn't ask for, but something that you need to hear because you want to make money, right? 5 things that will guarantee you always stay afloat. 1, a degree. It's not necessary always, but it's something that will at least get you in the door. It'll at least tell people, hey, I'm worthy of an interview. 2, a skill set. What you're doing right here is developing your skill set. You're developing the ability to read, write, and also produce content. That is hireable in so many different ways. Again, I've been a teacher, I've been a journalist, I've been a photographer. I tell people if I quit right now, I could be a court stenographer if I wanted to be, because it's the same skill set. So again, degree, skill set. This one is interesting because you've been working on it your whole life, but you didn't even know it. It's your network. Your network is everybody from your friends, family, people you know from elementary school. And your network, I would say a subset of number 3, it's like 3A as you're writing it down, is your brand. It's what they know you for. So if they know you as Jamar the jokester, and you've always been that since elementary school, that's your brand. I've always been an old man. Since I was 7, I was an old man. Like really, they were like, you're an old soul. I'm like, I just like Al Green, I don't know what to tell you. Like, and so that's been my brand. People always knew me as an old black man, even when I was a kid, right? And so when I said OG told me, they're like, yeah, duh, of course you would interview elders. That's what you would do. My network already knew my brand. So we have a degree, we have a skill set, we have a network / brand, a product on the market. Once I put that book out, I could sell it anytime. I'll wake up in the middle of the night, my Cash App will be dinging. People bought 5 books because that product was on the market. I didn't even have it on Amazon. I just put it out on social media and said, hey, Cash App me if you want me to send you a book. That's a product. This 5th one, I'm still learning, and I think I'm going to be learning it forever. Management. Management is about management of money, management of time, energy, emotions. God, how do you even manage emotions? It's like an oxymoron. Emotions manage you, really. But these 5 things, if I'd have known this in high school, I would have had a much better college experience. If I'd have known directly, like, okay, this is how I stay afloat. This is how I make at least $60,000 a year. At the very least, I can make this to get started, to get on my feet, and start rationalizing what it's like to be an adult. And this helps me so much as a journalist because I can see, okay, I went and got my degrees from Berkeley and Howard. My skill set is the ability to read, write, also talk to people, take notes, take photos. My network, again, people have been knowing me since I was doing oratorical fest. Like, written stuff. You were doing poetry when you were in kindergarten. That makes sense. And that's part of my brand, right? My product on the market, that book that I published. Now, it's not on Amazon right now, and I don't have any copies in my backpack. But if need be, if tomorrow KQED was like, don't come to work, I'd be like, okay, well, I'm going to republish my book, and I'm going to stay afloat again. And then I'd have to turn back to management of resources and manage what money I have coming in. So those are just 5 things. Just keep in mind as you all like, I know this is about journalism, I know this is about oral history, but it ties into what you want to do professionally. And this is just one of the many things that are going to be on your tool belt as you step out into the work world. Because we have 4 out of 5 seniors. How many seniors?
Like 3.
3. Okay, 3 out of 5. So you are about to step out there ASAP. So this is just something to keep in mind and think about where you're going to get your degree from, what your skill set is, who your network is, what product you put on the market, and how you can get better about managing the things that I mentioned. Yeah, I just wanted to share that with you. I try to share that as often as I step into high school and college classes because I just wish I had that when I was that age. Anything else? Thoughts, comments, questions? Nobody's curious about my random cat?
That's 3 cat references.
It's all good. I tried.
All right. Well, I thank you so much for sharing your time and your wisdom. And just for the record, because we are recording and I want to be able to make sure to share. You said there was a question that you return to often when you were putting together OG Told Me. What was that question again? Like the baseline sort of thing you had?
I would go up to the baseline at the heart of the conversation was talking to older black men and saying, if you had the ear of young people and you could lend them some wisdom based on your lived experiences, what would you tell them? It's complex, it wouldn't always be worded as such, but that is at the heart of it. And sometimes it'd be the first question, sometimes it'd be the last question, but one way or another, that's what I would get out of that interaction.
I only bring that up because, folks, we're going to be working with the elders and that they have a unique position to be able to tell you something, and sometimes you have to ask for the advice, and sometimes it's volunteered or just the wisdom. So don't be afraid to ask that, I guess is.
Sometimes it wouldn't even. I interviewed Bill Russell, legendary basketball player, 11-time NBA champion, West Oakland Zone, SF State grad, SF Don, UFS.
I think USF.
USF.
I think it was
Don.
USF. I think he was, yeah.
He's a Don. Okay.
Yeah.
Legendary basketball player. Like Barack Obama honored him, right? Like Purple Heart Medal of Honor, right? I interviewed him after when he comes into my climates. He's a jokester. He gets in an elevator and he's like, "Did you catch him?" I'm like, "Did you catch who?" He's like, "The guy who stole your razor." He's like talking about my beard. You got a scraggly beard too. Don't let me start roasting you. But he's just a real chill dude. And so I'm talking to him and I ask him that question. He's like, "Oh, I don't do interviews." I'm like, dang, so I can't even write about this experience? No, I decided to write about my experience, that funny interaction and all that. And then he has one quote that he has like on record that people know him for. And he talks about the human experience of being vulnerable and how we get wounded as we grow up and we start to build this shell around ourselves, a metaphorical social shell, all the while reaching for someone to reach in and pull us out. And I thought about that so much that I was like, I'm going to write my story and then add this quote, because this quote is the wisdom that I was searching for. He didn't tell it to me directly, but it's quoted, it's from him, and it speaks to this project that I'm doing.
All right, well, thank you for your time, everybody. I appreciate it. Round of applause for our
Thank you. And then, you got my contact. If you have any questions, follow up, let me know.
All right, for sure. Well, thank you again. And,
Thank you.
Great. Thank you
Yeah,
so
great.
much.
Thank you.
all right,
That's awesome.
appreciate it.